Alright, folks, good afternoon. First of all, Hawk's Nest stream tonight, this channel. Me and him going to talk about this Rams game that we took care of business in on Sunday. Do some post-game stuff for a couple hours. Should start around 7 Pacific. So tune in, and we're going to talk about what needs to be talked about with this team. Obviously, there's also some news outside of just the results of the game. We'll go through all that as well. So definitely tune in, and we're going to talk about whatever needs to be said about this team. All right, that out of the way, let's start taking a look at some of these young players like we usually do in this window on this channel every week. Okay, so we're starting with the offensive line. Was not the best day the offensive line ever had. And when it comes to our tackles, especially, we're starting to kind of see the players that we thought we were going to see this year. So what I mean by that is Charles Cross. All right, so Charles Cross gave up a sack, had a penalty. I think he allowed two pressures in that game, according to PFF. And his run block grade took a significant hit down to about 57, which is below average. So his PFF overall rating, however, is still a pretty good 64.5. That means his pass block grade is over 70. If you go to PFF right now, his pass block grade is a little over 70. Run block grade is down to about 57.5. So therefore, he is kind of becoming the player that people thought he was going to be at first, where because he did so much pass blocking in college, he was going to be a better pass blocker at first. And that's exactly what's going on here. This guy has allowed some sacks this year, but he's faced off against some really good pass rushers. 2 of the sacks that he's allowed this year were to Bradley Chubb. I do believe that in this most recent game, he may have still had the flu or the lingering after effects of the flu, which is why he got physically dominated on a couple snaps. But overall, he's been really good as a pass protector. He has allowed some pressures, but that's just part and parcel of playing football as a 21-year-old. And he's clearly established himself as a much better pass blocker than run blocker, which is pretty much what we thought we were going to get. The run blocking should come with experience. He is only 21. He might be 22 by now, but either way, he's really young. But we're basically getting what we thought we were going to get. Abe Lucas, it's not as extreme, which makes sense because Abe Lucas had a couple years at Washington State where he did do a decent amount of run blocking, so it's not like it's completely foreign to him. But he is a better pass blocker. He allowed he didn't allow a sack. He did allow a couple pressures against the Rams. He did pick up one penalty. His grade dropped a little bit, but overall he's still playing well. So basically both those guys are who we thought they were. They're both better pass blockers than run blockers right now. Abe Lucas is a little more balanced, but that's kind of what we thought we were going to get, especially this year. And Abe Lucas is playing a little bit better right now, but I'll say it until everybody understands it. That is to be expected when one guy is 2 years older than the other, and that's what we have right now. Not much to say about the linebackers. Boye Mafe only played 10 snaps. His grade fell a tiny bit. He didn't record any stats or any pressures. Having a chance to look at it, though, and listening to what some other people are saying, seems like our run defense was better with him in the game, so I don't know why he was out of the game so much. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially with what I know now. So I'd be interested to see why we held Mafe out as much as we did, and I'd wonder if maybe there's an injury going on there that they haven't told us about, and I want to see what we do going forward. So Mafe, not much of an impact against the Rams, but he didn't get to play very much. Offensive skill players, again, very little going on here. Ken Walker played good for the little bit he was allowed to play. He had the 30-yard run to open the game. He had a good all-around couple of drives, I guess you would say, 36 yards, and almost got in the end zone there right before he got hurt. And that's all well and good, but not a big impact because he got hurt. So we'll see where things go with him. But assuming he's not going to miss significant time, he's still well on pace to end up with about 1,000 yards from scrimmage. And despite our bad run blocking right now, he's still playing relatively efficient football. Tariq Young only played 1 snap. I think his PFF grade went up by 0.1, but nothing to really talk about there. So Yeah, it's pretty dry in the middle here. We're not seeing huge impacts from the linebackers and the offensive skill players. You got to put them on the field a little bit more. Or in the case of Ken Walker, you need better luck with health. So the big stuff comes in the defensive backfield, I think. And, of course, the offensive line, because at the end of the day, Cross and Lucas played every snap. I know they don't play perfectly, but they're out there every snap, so that's big. But the really cool stuff comes with the defensive backfield. So Kobe Bryant played, I think, a pretty decent game, picked up some tackles, had a PD pass defensed, almost picked it off, almost had a chance to pull that one down, but he made the play he needed to make to prevent a pretty big play. And his QBR against went down a little bit. It's still up there pretty high, but again, playing out of position, I'm not going to hold much against him right now. He's not having a perfect rookie year by any stretch, but we're not putting him in the best possible position. I think he's doing fine overall. I like him, and if the referees didn't hate him, I think we'd be feeling very differently about him right now, too. Tariq Woolen, on the other hand, there's nothing that needs to be said about that. 3 passes defended, a career high, another interception, so he's up to 7 forced turnovers. He has the 6 picks and the 1 field goal block, which I consider to be a turnover because the effect is the same. Maybe even more extreme because it's directly taking points off the board. QB rating allowed is down to about 66. I think he allowed 1 significant completion to Van Jefferson in this game. Had like 7 tackles. He's just doing it, man. He's just doing it. And with the way you would expect his career to go from here, knowing what he's doing now with relatively little experience at the position, I'm not saying this will happen, but the path he is on is like beyond Richard Sherman levels. And Richard Sherman was the best cornerback in the game of his era. So Tariq Woolen is currently on the track to do better than that. Just for those of you out there who are wondering where this is headed. This is headed to a very special place. And I don't think we'll fully understand where it's headed until he's there because it's just so far out there. So yeah, another really good game for Tariq Woolen. I hope they keep throwing his way because they regret it constantly. Joey Blunt had 1 tackle on special teams, so he's up to 7 special teams tackles now, which is nice. And Trey Brown, I mean, he picked up a penalty. He gave up at least 1 play in coverage, maybe 2. So his grade drops off a cliff. It's to be expected. He's rusty. He hasn't played football in about a year. So can't say anything about it except he's just got to get more experience. And as this end of the season goes on, as we move through December, hopefully he starts getting that experience. By the end of the year, he's ready to just go. And if we do make the playoffs, which right now we still look good for a playoff spot, I hope that he's the starting cornerback. No diss to Michael Jackson because I think he's playing well. I think Trey Brown has a higher ceiling. And if he's on his game, I believe he can give us better than what Michael's been giving us. All right, that's it. Not a ton to report, but there is to report is mostly good. The offensive line admittedly didn't play great, but I think there were reasons for that. And I'm excited by what we're getting out of the defensive backfield. All right, see you guys hopefully in the stream tonight, 7 o'clock, with the Hawk's Nest on my channel, this channel right here. Go Hawks!